بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. Please share. Please share. What I'm going to talk about, as you know, I'm a little bit early. I would have liked to have been earlier, but mashallah who can, as Allah eternally willed, that it starts when I start. But I want to have a serious conversation in my scattered thoughts before our class. And I would suspect that this is going to take up at least 45 minutes. And then we'll have some reading in a section of Safinatul Najat. But I want you to share this. Please. It's a very important thing that I want to talk about. And we've talked about it, but I want to make sure it's clear for all of us who attend. Because, you know, a lot of times we reflect on the day's events, especially at night, and we realize that sometimes we think we understand things that we actually didn't understand. One of the things that I believe, this is, and maybe some school teachers, how many of you are school teachers in the public school system? How many of you are school teachers or have been school teachers or know school teachers? Only one? Okay. I don't know if they still have it. Okay, private school teacher is sufficient, right? I don't know if they still have that, but they used to have at one period, or they may still have, I'm not sure, a concept of no child left behind. Do y'all remember that? Does it still exist? No child left behind. I think that was during the Bush years, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so that was a concept which is gone. But I believe that concept hurt underserved communities the most under the guise of helping them. This is my honest thought about that. Even when they was doing it, I used to say that. The concept of no child left behind have the most detrimental results and effects on underserved communities in the guise of trying to help them. What it did it never allowed them to get the proper education while moving them along. And they reach points that they became worse because they never had fundamental aspects that they needed because they were just passed along. So you would have a kid, by the time they reach the 6th grade, can't read a 3rd grade reading level because they just passed them through, right? Uh, so we have a precedent to examine something to see if it works, right? We cannot do the Islamic version of No Muslim Left Behind. I'm using this as a preface for what I'm getting ready to explain to you. We cannot do the Islamic version of No Muslim Left Behind, No Child Left Behind, No Muslim Left Behind. Can we put that up just so it's highlighted? We cannot do the Islamic version of No Muslim Left Behind. Can all of us copy that? Can all of us put that up? Now, those of you come late, there's a context to why we put that up. So please go back to the beginning that you missed so you understand context and you don't misunderstand. There's a context for this statement. We cannot do the Islamic version of No Muslim Left Behind. There's a context. You need to go back, listen to the beginning to see why we said that. It's an analogy, right? How do we do the Islamic version of No Child Left Behind and we just put Muslim instead of child? Is that we pass along people who have not learned and move them along as if they have learned, just for the sake of saying we have something. I'll repeat, we cannot just move people along who have not learned and pretend that they have learned just to say we have learned people. Are y'all following me? Is this clear what I said? Please, please, this is very important. It could save us years and maybe generations of pain if we understand this. So for instance, all of you have heard me say, and I need to clarify this, it's very important, that we don't have scholars. How many of you have heard me say that? Among us, we don't have scholars, Islamic scholars in the technical definition of a scholar, right? I've said that multiple times. Nor will I ever back down from that statement until we produce some, right? Right? So please put that up. I want you to follow me. So we got that. Don't forget, we cannot do the Islamic version of No Muslims Left Behind. I did say that. We don't have scholars in our communities. Islamic scholars by the technical definition in the Islamic sciences, right? So let's add that. We don't have scholars in our communities by the technical definition of scholar in Islamic sciences. We don't have that. That's a definitive statement. I'm not hesitating. I'm not like going to dumb it down. We don't have it. And we must produce it for our own religious survival as a people. We don't have it, and we must produce it for our religious survival. Right? That is not putting us down. That tells us the work we have to do. Is that clear? If anyone doesn't understand what I'm saying, please feel free to jump in and ask me to clarify. Because I'm going to clarify. When I say we don't have Islamic scholars, I'm talking about by the technical Islamic definition and qualifications of a scholar in the Islamic sciences. Doesn't exist that we know of. Of course, there can always be a person somewhere in his man cave that don't tell nobody that he became a super scholar. That's always possible. But in terms of our judgments, that person as if they're non-existent, even if they exist. So we're not talking about some rare exception that nobody know about, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about what is a perceived reality, right? Now, with that being said, may Allah make it easy for you, Habibi, Brother Stanley. Uh, with that being said, since we don't have a thing, we're not going to give honorary scholar degrees or scholar titles. You know, at the college, you can get, or university, depending who you are, what you do, they'll give you an honorary doctorate degree. Y'all have heard of that, right? The honorary doctorate degree. Y'all heard of them before? I know that people in education have, for definitely. When you go to a school and they give you an honorary doctorate degree, are they saying you're a real doctor? When you get an honorary doctorate degree, are they saying you are a real doctor? And whatever they gave it to you in? So, right? You have the title you can put, but they're not saying you're a doctor. So we're not giving honorary scholar degrees or titles. You know, he's not really a scholar, but he's a scholar. No, we're not doing that. And usually that is given to somebody for some benefit of recognition from the university. They're getting some benefit for that. Why they give that honorary doctorate degree to somebody or other kind of degree. It's something they want by way of that person, right? There's no such thing in Islam. It doesn't exist, right? Because scholarship in Islam means putting in time and acquiring the knowledge. There's no scholarship without it, right? So what I'm going to do in this talk, and it may take me more than one day, but I'm going to try to get the bulk of it done today. It may take me more than one day. Is all of us who don't know any better in our community, because of false Islamic education, have become honorary seekers of knowledge and honorary scholars and sheikhs. And we have to stop that. Because of the climate, far too many of us, I would say, in fact, most of us who don't know any better, have become honorary seekers of knowledge, honorary sheikhs, and honorary scholars. And we must stop that. Do y'all follow me? For our own survival, especially us as a people, we must stop that. Are y'all with me? So I want you to know where I'm going with all this. I'm going slow. You know, I could talk fast, but I'm going very slow and I'm very deliberate in what I'm saying. Doing that is our Islamic version of No Child Left Behind. Please, I beg us, do not do that to the next generation of African American Muslims. Please, don't do it. I beg us, do not do that. It is a great injustice that we will be doing on our descendants. Please don't do that. All right. With that said, whenever we're talking about scholar, whenever I'm talking about a scholar, whenever I'm talking about a student of knowledge, a sheikh, I'm talking in the context, I'm talking about me, I'm not talking about nobody else. So you always understand context. Context is very important. A lot of times you can misunderstand someone if you don't understand the context in which they're speaking, right? So I want you to put this up. Context is extremely important in understanding speech. Please put that up. Context is extremely important in understanding speech. This is very important, right? Can we copy that? All of this is connected to what I'm going to say. And I'm just laying down foundational things before I go into the body of the subject. Because all these foundational things, if you don't understand them, you're going to miss the subject. You don't even understand why it's important to talk about. But by me laying, these are foundational things that you should understand before we talk about it, then you understand when we talk about the subject, you understand its importance. Without it, we're going to be, it's just wasting time. because you don't even understand what we're talking about and why it's important to learn it. I'm going to define scholar, and once you define scholar, you can answer your own questions, right? Because when you name people, you hurt feelings, even if it's true what you're saying. Because you name somebody, you're gonna hurt their feelings. So let's define what a scholar is, and then you can answer your own question, right? You'll have a scale to weigh somebody. Is this person a scholar? Put them in a scale. No. Like, that's it, right? So let's follow the thing, right? So whenever I speak of context, right, that's important. Don't take my words out of their context, right? Is a context. So whenever I speak of a scholar, I'm speaking about someone who has mastery in a particular science among the Islamic sciences or in multiple sciences in the Islamic sciences according to the standard of scholarship in that field among Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Y'all with me? So whenever we use the term, we're talking about a field of Islamic studies. So that means you have to know the fields of Islamic studies. Scholar in what? Right? Because they're fields, they're sciences. You don't just study Islam as a big mixed bowl of stuff. There's actually fields of study. You're a scholar in what? Not I'm just a scholar. That's too vague. A scholar in what? My a person. A person. I gotta watch my mouth. A person, in our districts, in our school district, probably like others, everybody walk around when they get their doctorate degree, they want to be Dr. somebody, right? So a person, they had a doctorate, I think in theology, and they're walking around the school as Dr. somebody. When the people found out that they didn't have a doctorate in education, they were upset. It's a doctorate in theology, but they're walking around the school, Dr. So-and-so. And the people were misunderstanding that that meant you're a doctor in education or a related field, but you have a doctorate in something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So they were so upset, they didn't want to call the person a doctor. So those in that field understand exactly what I'm saying. So context is extremely important. Oh my goodness. But he is a doctor, just not in the thing you want him to be a doctor in, right? Oh my goodness. So I'm sorry. It's the kid in me. right? So whenever I'm talking about scholarship, I'm talking within the context of a science, a field of study. What I mean by science, in the sciences, the religious sciences, according to the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Are y'all with me here? Right? Context is important. So when I'm talking about a scholar, I'm not just some loose stuff. I'm talking about in the field, according to Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, this is the field, this is the level of scholarship, and you meet that. Do you follow my point? That's what we're talking about. Is this clear? In that field, yes. Khadijah, that's another way of saying it. That a scholar is someone recognized by other scholars in the field of study according to the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's another way to identify that. And with rigorous standards, not honorary degrees and titles, with rigorous standards, right? So that's another way to put it. Now listen, just to make some of us who are, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, and I'm black and I'm proud, right? This, what I'm talking about, also applies everywhere around the world, right? For our Islam, so we don't destroy our religion, right? So the same standards we're talking about is going to apply across the board, around the world. The bar is the bar, no matter who it is, right? So this is not specific against black people. This is Islamic standard across the board. It has nothing to do with race. Either you got it or you don't, right? And if you don't have it, you need to get it. So that's not, if you don't have it, we don't say, okay, well, we're just going to drop the standard and give it to you. No honorary degrees in this. You got to get it. You got to put in the work and the time, or you got to develop succeeding generations that will do that. You have to put in the work. There's no such thing as, we can't leave nobody behind. Just go ahead and pass, right? So what do we learn from that? First, we got to understand what is Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. By now, you should know when we say Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, who are we talking about? The essential part of that is going to be, this is in our context we're talking about, right? In creed, they're going to be Ash'ari or Maturidi. Let's clarify this. So we always got context. So don't take my speech outside of its context. In creed, Ash'ari or Maturidi. In the practical rules, al-fiqh, there are Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, or Hanbali. Spirituality, they follow the way of at-tasawwuf. That's when we're talking about scholars, we're talking about someone whose principles are those. And then all the related sciences within Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah according to the standard of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Does everyone got that? Is that clear? Everybody with me? These things are foundational for you to have this discussion, for you to, it's important too. It's going to help us, right? It's going to help us big time. So if a guy is saying, I don't follow a madhab, we're not even considering him for scholarship. It's not even a discussion, right? If a guy says, I don't follow a madhab, or a guy or a girl, doesn't matter, man or woman, we're not even considering them in terms of scholarship. They're not even in the discussion. You don't qualify for the discussion according to the context in which we're talking. So if someone comes and says, this person's a scholar, and they're outside of the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we're not even discussing them as a scholar at all. That's not even a discussion. In our context, right? We're not even discussing that. So the guy says, what about so-and-so? I don't follow a madhab. All right, we're not even talking about him. Because if he doesn't follow a madhab in creed or in practice, then the standards are not going to apply because he's all over the place. He has his own standards, which we have nothing to measure him by, right? He doesn't have a standard. Now, let me clarify one point related to that. That doesn't mean that person doesn't have knowledge. No one never said that. That doesn't mean that person doesn't have knowledge. We didn't say that. We said you're not even in the discussion of scholarship in our context. It's not even in the discussion. We're not even listening to him in that sense as scholarship, no matter how much you know. Let me give you an analogy. Right? Am I a millionaire? Yes or no? For those who know me, am I a millionaire? Yes or no? Those of you who know me, am I a millionaire? Yes or no? Those who know me, am I a millionaire? Yes or no? Let's see how many of you know me. Okay. So that means none of you know I'm doing a great job. Right? Right? Now I'm going to ask you a reverse question. A reverse question. By the Western standards by which we determine if someone is a millionaire, am I a millionaire? By which the Western standards in the United States of America, how we determine someone is a millionaire, am I a millionaire? Now, that's another question. Absolutely not. Right? And just for IRS purposes, no, I'm not a millionaire. Right? But I'm just making a point to you. So this is an analogy. You don't know if I'm a millionaire, right? But by the standards which we will determine legally a millionaire, I'm not, for sure. Nowhere near a millionaire. Do you understand my point? But that doesn't mean I'm not a millionaire. But legally, by the technical definition of how we legally determine a millionaire, you're not a millionaire. Move that over to what we're talking about. So even if a person is knowledgeable and has scholarly knowledge, by the standard of how we legally determine a scholar, they don't fit. Do you understand my point? Y'all understand the analogy? I'm giving you analogies so it sticks in your mind. Do you understand the point? Y'all following the point? It's an analogy. It's not real. It's analogy to bring something to your mind, right? So that person who says, how are you going to say I'm not a scholar? Well, in your mind, you could be anything, right? You could be a millionaire. I don't know. But by the standards we judge scholarship, you don't fit it. By the standards we know millionaires, you don't fit it. All right. I know this is long and drawn out, but I need it to be clear so we don't have to keep having the same conversation. All right. So now when we're talking about scholarship, that's our context, right? That's our context. So whenever you hear me mentioning that, if you're going to ask me about a person, first thing you should say, is that person Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah? And then you put the definition of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. If the answer is no, then he's not even in the conversation, or she. Do y'all follow my point? It's not even a conversation. Then you have to ask that person, is that person Ahl Sunnah? No? Okay, then we're not even having a conversation. That's not in the conversation at all. It's outside of the context. Right? So automatically, if you have someone who's not following a madhab in creed and practice, we're not even talking about this person. They don't even fit in the conversation that we're talking about. They have their own standards that we can't measure. So it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't fit. They don't have a standard by which we can measure. They're outside of the context of the discussion. And in that case, it's irrelevant to the conversation. You don't fit in the context, right? All right. So for some questions, the person asks me, the answer automatically is no, based on that. Based on that, no, absolutely not, right? Now, okay, is all these points clear that I set up so far? It's been 37 minutes. What I laid as the preface to my conversation, is it all clear? Any questions up to this point? I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, inshallah, to formulate if you have a question related to the preface of this conversation. If you understood it, then I'm gonna move on. But please don't be shy, because I discovered last night that we don't understand this. Even though I've been teaching and we've been learning for almost 3 years together, some people who've been here for years don't understand. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe I'm not clear enough. So I don't know why you didn't understand, but you don't understand. So the point is the point. You didn't understand. So we got to help people to understand. So is there any questions about what I said as a preface? Anything? Assalamu alaikum to my beloved Nail. I need you to come in, join the conversation with good manners and behavior so nobody get mad at you, because we love you, right? All right. So go ahead. Any questions? Who is we? Who is we? What do you mean by we, Farouk? I don't understand the context of your question. Who is we? What do you mean we? I don't know what you're talking about. Clarify your question. This is important though. This conversation is very important. So make sure you go back to the beginning so you follow the whole context, and maybe it will help you formulate questions later. It's fine, right? But follow the context. Farouk, come on, you got to move fast. What is we? We, us as a people, we missing stuff. So when I say realize we didn't understand, we as a people are missing some things. So that's we. That's a generalization from a conversation that we had as people that we talk to each other and we realize that we missing some stuff. So it's not necessarily an individual. It means a collective mindset that exists, that we may miss some things. That's what I mean by we. There's no tea here. It's just conversation. It's no tea. It's not something deep, because we really gotta love, we really have to love one another. And if one of us is sick, or two of us, or three of us, we should all feel the sadness and the pain, right? So if one of us, or two of us, or three of us, or four of us don't understand, right, then all of us should feel the pain of that lack of understanding and do our best to clarify it, because we want to help each other, right? Right? Okay, good. So we're good. Rita, are you with us now?
I am present.
I took too much time, so please forgive me, but this is important. Okay. I need all of us to go to the Reliance of the Traveler. I told you, you all should have it. This is an important book. I suggest whoever doesn't have it, please buy it. It's an important resource in studying that's available to you in English. I mean, we have to have some resources. And this is, for what we're going to do right now, among the best available resources we have when it's navigated properly. So there's the link for it for those who don't have it. Get it, mark your notes, and then when you get it, go read, inshallah. And the other book is coming. We sent all those books out, and I'm going to have that conversation because that's going to help you in what we're talking about. So read section on page number 16. We're going to, because we read this before, but I want to highlight certain points. Read B 1.2. Page 16, B 1.2. We want to read to that whole thing quickly.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, B 1.2. Remark by the translator. For the key term qualified to issue expert legal opinion in Arabic, mujtahid, this ability being ijtihad, please turn to book 0 or book O and read O22.1 section D, the qualifications of an Islamic judge. Qadi.
Stop here. Please highlight. Please highlight the term mujtahid and the term ijtihad. This ability being ijtihad. Whenever I'm talking about scholarship in our context for scholarship, I'm talking about at least the lowest levels of ijtihad. So you need both terms, mujtahid and ijtihad. In our context of where we even begin the word scholarship, scholar is at the lowest levels of ijtihad. We're going to talk about that. Y'all got that? So in the context when I talk on this platform, when I say scholar, I'm talking about the lowest levels of ijtihad, where we begin to even mention scholar. So this is very important. Y'all with me? Does everyone understand? So those two terms you need to highlight for context. For context, whenever I'm talking, when I say scholar, I'm talking about the lowest levels of ijtihad, not the highest levels, the lowest levels. That's where we begin to talk the word scholar, right? In context. Now, if you're talking out of context, you may say the kid on the playground is a scholar when you're talking out of context, right? Analogy. When we say someone plays professional sports, in our context, the one who's in college is not a professional player. Even if he's good enough to be one, he's not one. Do you see my point? So a professional player has a context. The person who's not a professional player, even if he has the skill set to be one, he's not one. And we're not going to call him one until he becomes a professional player. For analogy, keep it in context. Go ahead.
The difference between the qualifications for the imam of a school and those for a judge or a mufti is that the former's competence in giving opinion is absolute, extending to all subject matters in the sacred law, while the competence of the judge or mufti is limited respectively to judging court cases or to applying his imam's ijtihad to particular questions.
Okay, quickly, the mujtahid, right? The mujtahid, yes, the book is in stock. The mujtahid is levels, and the highest level of that mujtahid is the imam of a school, like Abu Hanifa, like Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Malik. Let me go back with a little bit more respect. Sayyiduna al-Imam Abu Hanifa, Sayyiduna al-Imam Malik, Sayyiduna al-Imam al-Shafi'i, Sayyiduna al-Imam Ahmed. These are, and those in their rank, these are imams of a school. They're at the highest level of Islamic scholarship, right? There are many levels beneath them, which we're going to discuss. The judge is the real Islamic judge, is at the lowest levels of those areas. And in between the judge who's judging court cases, right, and that imam of the school are many levels and degrees, right? But the lowest level that we're going to be talking about is the knowledge and prerequisites for the judge. Is the lowest level, right? Y'all following me? Is this clear? You with me? And we're talking about context for us to have an understanding. Okay, so the imam of the school, his knowledge is in every subject matter of the sacred law, in every matter, every area of Islamic law. He is a top level qualified legal jurist and issues expert legal opinion in every subject matter, from acts of worship to personal dealings, family matters, crimes and punishments, and everything in between, in every aspect of the sacred law. As for that judge or those who are at his level, he's only dealing with certain areas of the sacred law, not all of them. Do y'all understand the difference? Y'all with me? So you're talking about someone who the whole sacred law is in front of them and they issue expert legal opinion in every area. Then at the lowest level, you have people who are qualified just to talk about this part. Not the rest, just this. Analogy. You have someone who's at the Supreme Court. This is just by way of analogy, and the qualifications are much more for the Islamic mujtahid. You have the judge in the Supreme Court who's going to deal with everything that comes before them. Then you have the judge in traffic court who's in the municipal traffic court who's only going to deal with tickets and traffic violations. He's not going to, whenever the matter gets beyond that, it's going to be moved to where? Superior Court, right? Do y'all follow me? Do y'all follow me? He's only dealing with traffic cases. He's not going to talk about other stuff or misdemeanors. That's it. Once it goes to something that can deal with jail time, you got to go to another level of the court. You got by way of analogy? Not exactly the same. I'm just giving you analogies so you can understand the context. This is very important. We're teaching by way of analogies in terms of context so we would understand. So none of us expect the municipal traffic court judge to get presented with a murder case. He's not. That's not his field. Right? That will never end up in his courtroom. That's going to go to a higher court, a judge with more knowledge of the law. That's not his field. If it's a civil court, he's not going to be dealing with criminal cases. He's going to deal with the civil aspect of the case. That's it. He's not going to talk about. So if you go to civil court, right, you're not expected to go to jail, right? If you're going to go to jail, you're not going to be in that court. You're going to be in criminal court. And the legal process is going to be totally different. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? So when we're talking about the judge and the mujtahid, we're talking about different areas of expertise in the sacred law. Okay, go ahead.
No age of history is totally lacking people who are competent in ijtihad on particular questions which are new. And this is an important aspect of sacred law, to provide solutions to new ethical problems by means of sound Islamic legal methodology in applying the Quranic and Hadith primary text.
Read that again. If we're going to talk about scholarship in our context, in America, in the Black community or any other community, we're at this level right now. And it's essential. We're at this level. Read that again, inshallah, please.
No age of history is totally lacking people who are competent in ijtihad on particular questions which are new. And this is an important aspect of sacred law, to provide solutions to new ethical problems by means of sound Islamic legal methodology in applying the Quranic and Hadith primary text.
Okay, now, we as in Black America, right? Yes. Now, we're talking about new issues. Contextually, what may exist with us. We are in dire need of people who are competent. Notice the word competent. Competent has conditions, right? Competent is not anybody. Competent means someone who is capable of doing expert legal opinion, which is ijtihad, on new stuff that didn't exist before that we're dealing with. And there's a lot of that, right? But how are they going to deal with these new problems? Could you read that context again? How are they going to deal with it? By way of what?
By
By means
means
of,
of sound Islamic legal methodology in applying the Quranic and Hadith primary text.
highlight that. But read it again. By means.
By means of sound Islamic legal methodology in applying the Quranic and Hadith primary text.
Now, so by means of sound Islamic legal methodology, sound Islamic legal methodology, right? Which is applying Quran and Hadith primary texts to those new questions and problems and issues. We always need that. What you will understand from that, right, is that it's not just anybody. It's not just loose. There is some qualifications for that. And it will always exist. Now, that person has to have some sound basic knowledge. To understand those qualifications, you need to understand a science in the Islamic science called usul al-fiqh. Right? Understand what is needed. That's a whole separate Islamic science. It's called usul al-fiqh, right? So in order to know how is this person, what is this competency, and what are these sound legal methodology, that requires a whole nother field of Islamic study called usul al-fiqh to identify that. Y'all with me? Y'all follow me? So that's not just, remember, we're not just passing along. There is an area of study to even identify that. That's a whole field of study to identify such an individual and what it needs to be that individual. It's not based on, let me think about it. There is a methodology. And that science has a generality agreed upon by scholars, then specifics for each school of legal thought. So you have the general principles of the field, which is agreed upon by everybody. Then you have the detailed specifics that are related to each individual school. So you have usul al-fiqh as a general subject. Then you have it in details according to the Hanafi school, according to the Maliki school, according to the Shafi'i school, according to the Hanbali school. Y'all follow me? So you're gonna have the over umbrella, the usul al-fiqh. Generally, there are certain things that are agreed upon by all schools. Then there are specific details to each school. Y'all with me? Do me a favor when you're formulating questions. Let me help you. Understand fully what I'm talking about before you make questions and details. Like, make sure you understand the subject first. Once you understand fully what is being explained, then formulate your questions based on that, right? Because sometimes formulating a question before understanding the subject, you can answer your own questions once you understood the subject sometimes. So sometimes slow down, right? For us, this is in general, like step by step, right? We ain't going nowhere until we die, so don't worry. The questions, we're a family. We can always talk about it, right? It don't have to be now. Let's understand the subject we're talking about first, in general way. If you understand in general, then when we go in details, you won't get lost. Like, so be patient while we go through it, right? We together, we ain't going nowhere. And we love each other, so don't worry. When we die, hopefully you can pick up where I left off. And hopefully by going through this, and I know how it works in the business of Islamic marketing and advertising. Some people are going to listen to what we're doing and they're going to make courses on it. Man, he just got something. All right, sign up for this course, $50, $100 for a 10-week course. And the source was this conversation, right? So you'll get your shit, Y'all ever saw that Imam Fahim? Remember that, was that Coca-Cola with that Mean Joe Green commercial where he comes out of the locker room and the kid go, "Hey, Mean Joe Green," or whatever, and he throw him the shirt and say, "You'll get your chance, kid," or something like that. Y'all remember that commercial? The Coca-Cola commercial back in the day for Mean Joe Green from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I guess I'm telling my age. Yeah, don't worry, you get your chance. Don't worry about it. Right? Okay. So uh so there is, so what we're understanding from this, from that definition, that's not open for anybody. There's qualifications, and then when we understand it's broad qualifications, then specific qualifications, right? So it's not just something we're just going to throw out there, and it's not based on whim. Like, okay, no, it's rules, and it's contextual, and it has a defined system. Okay, go ahead. This at the minimum level in our communities, we need to produce people like this. And we need to identify what things they're qualified in. As a disclaimer, I'm not qualified in none of this, right? So, as a disclaimer, I'm not qualified in none of it. What I do know is I recognize it. And I've been around people who teach it for a living, scholars. So I've seen scholars, I live with scholars, I met scholars, so I know the difference, right? Analogy. My son is a police officer. So no one could come to me and act like a cop. I know what a cop is, right? And I remember when he first was in the academy, I remember what that looks like. I remember when he became a RoboCop. Like I say, they call that in our city a class 2 officer. They have limited legal abilities. They're not a full cop. They're a part-time cop. They're a cop. They can arrest you. But like, for example, they can't take their gun home. They only can work a certain amount of hours. They only can work in certain areas. They are police, but they're at the lowest level, right? Do you follow my point? And now he's a full-time officer with a special detail. There's a difference, right? And I watched all those levels, right? So you can't come to me acting like a police officer. My son's a police officer. I know what police officers do. I know the process. I watched it. I'm not a police officer, and I know you ain't either. Right? Do you understand my point? I use these analogies so it sticks in our mind. That's the reason why I'm mentioning them. Because if I just talk legal, you probably get lost. But if I talk legal and then bring it contextually to what we understand by way of analogy, it becomes clear. Am I right in that or no? Is it working? Is this process working to help you understand what we're talking about? If not, tell me. I'm not, like Imam Fahim said, we don't get it. It's not clear. Allahu Akbar. I'm sorry, this went way over what I thought it would be, but it's important. Is it working for you? Yes or no? And that goes by way of a majority. If someone individually ain't getting it, I can't solve everybody's problems. But in general, if the majority is following, then that's all I'm concerned about at this level. Okay, good. All right, continue.
But while in this specific sense, the door of ijtihad is not and cannot be closed, Islamic scholarship has not accepted anyone's claims to absolute ijtihad since Imams Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmed.
Very important. Read that again.
But while in this sense, specific sense, the door of ijtihad is not and cannot be closed, Islamic scholarship has not accepted anyone's claims to absolute ijtihad since Imams Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmed.
So ijtihad, this term, right? Expert, legal, I'll say Islamic legal just to add an extra word because we're talking about Islam. So we keep context because you might think legal and start thinking something else, and we don't want that. Expert legal opinion. Right? So we're talking about, right? Expert legal opinion. Right? Right? So expert legal opinion with its conditions, which we're going to talk about, right? That is available. People can do it. In some cases, follow this, is very important. In some legal issues, new legal issues, in some old issues, they can have some input based on the context of the time. As far as absolute in all matters of the sacred law, Islamic scholarship has not accepted that for no one in general. After those 4 imams, that's why we only follow 4 schools, not other than that. Is that clear for everyone? Read that again so we right there. It's very important.
But while in this specific sense, the door of ijtihad is not and cannot be closed, Islamic scholarship has not accepted anyone's claims to absolute ijtihad since Imams Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmed.
Good. All right. So the question is asked. So there is no one alive who has reached ijtihad. You just read it. Answer that question yourself. You just read it. Read it again.
But while
Please, reader, read it again so the person can answer their own question.
But while in this specific sense the door of ijtihad is not and cannot be closed, Islamic scholarship has not accepted anyone's claims to absolute ijtihad since Imams Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmed.
Okay, now I want us to walk through. Let's see if we're making progress. Answer the question, everyone. So there is no one alive who has reached ijtihad. Everyone answer that question. I want to see if we understood. Good question. Nail, let me put that question up just for the benefit. Let's see if we understood our lesson. And I'm going to stop with this and we'll continue tomorrow. Everyone answer that question. Everyone should by now should be able to answer that question. If you understood everything I'm talking about, you should be able to answer that question. So come on, everyone who understood, you should be able to answer, because that is a question that needs to be clarified first, and you can clarify the question through your answer. MashaAllah. See, Nail? Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Go ahead, Nail. Put all that together in one sentence, Nail. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. That is beautiful. You answered your own question. See, I knew we could do it. Alhamdulillah. You just made me happy. MashaAllah. See, these private classes are working. Now we just got to get funding for them. Oh my goodness. Private classes doing wonders. MashaAllah. Oh my goodness. Right. So let me answer the question, right? Of course, there are people who are alive who are able to do ijtihad in certain matters. As for absolute ijtihad, in terms of all of this sacred law, Islamic scholars who are qualified have never accepted that claim after those four imams for anyone in general. Is that clear? That's what I said. You said it. I said you answered. That's what the private classes are working. So everybody, don't give up on nobody. That's our lesson for today. The closing point, don't give up on no one. Even if they seem like they're not understanding, don't give up. Be patient with each other. Work with each other. Love one another. We'll get the understanding. Inshallah. It may start off rocky, but we work with each other. We can do it. We have to. Right? We'll get it. Even if it's a little rocky, it's fine. Right? Okay, let's finish this out because we got to close. If y'all would give me the luxury of finishing this over the next couple of days, because it's hurting us from learning without understanding this. I'm gonna tell you a story. Once she finished reading, I'm gonna share something with you quickly. Let's try to make it quick. Go ahead.
As for those who decry hidebound conservatism and would open the gate of ijtihad for themselves while lacking or possibly not even knowing the necessary qualifications, if such people have not studied the rulings of a particular school and the relationship between these rulings, the Quranic and Hadith primary text, and the school's methodological principles, they do not know how ijtihad works from an observer's standpoint, let alone how to employ it.
Read this and highlight that whole section. This is us. A lot of us who say we scholars and we got scholars, this is talking about us. Listen to the translator's statement to us. This is a lot of us who want to open the doors of legal reasoning for ourselves and for others who don't meet it. This is to you, to all of us who do that. That I just follow Quran and Sunnah group. I just follow Quran and Sunnah. Okay, this is for you. Go ahead. Read that again, please.
If such As for those who decry hidebound conservatism and would open the gate of ijtihad for themselves while lacking or possibly not even knowing the necessary qualifications, if such people have not studied the rulings of a particular school and the relation between these rulings, the Quranic and Hadith primary text, and the school's methodological principles, they do not know how ijtihad works from an observer's standpoint, let alone how to employ it.
Which means once they try it, it's going to be a disaster. Right? It's going to be a disaster. From an observer's standpoint, you don't even know how the system works, let alone how to employ it. Analogy. The guy don't know nothing about electricity or being the field of electrician, and he gonna rewire your house. Analogy. The person doesn't know nothing about electricity, how it works, nor anything about how to be an electrician, and he's gonna rewire your house. How many of y'all gonna accept that? He doesn't know anything about electricity. He doesn't even know how to be an electrician, but he's going to rewire your house. And you're going to pay him for it. I mean, you are the funniest. Sounds like a house fire to me, job security. And when he gets caught, after he causes that house fire, what's going to happen to him? After he causes that house fire, what's going to happen to him legally? Are they going to say he was just performing ijtihad? He has a right to his opinion. He has a right to his opinion. You cannot argue with him. He has a right to his opinion. He just burned down the house and killed the kids. Okay, go ahead.
To ask them, for example, which of two equally authenticated primary texts that conflict on a legal question should be given precedence and why is like asking an aspiring drafting student for the particulars of designing a suspension bridge.
Read that again. There's an analogy. Read that again.
To ask them, for example, which of two equally authenticated primary texts that conflict on a legal question should be given precedence and why is like asking an aspiring drafting student for the particulars of designing a suspension bridge.
So you have two hadith sahih. They seem to outwardly contradict each other. How do we solve that issue and why? You're asking that person. Two Sahih Hadith, both of them are authentic, rigorously authentic. They contradict outwardly. How do you solve that dilemma and why? A drafting student. My daughter took drafting as a class in high school, and she was all A's straight in that class, right? I remember getting her a computer and everything to do the work. She's a drafting student. She was doing that. She was excellent. Would you go over a bridge she designed in high school? Would you go over that bridge? There's a question. Would any of you know that that's who did that bridge? Without any expert people helping it, would you take your chance and drive over that bridge? Okay. So why are you driving the bridge to your hereafter with people like that? So why are we so quick to drive our bridge to the hereafter like that? Drive over the bridge to the hereafter like that. You got the analogies? You got people, their field is a medical doctor, and they're acting like they're legal jurists. Say what? What is you? I'm a doctor, but I play Islamic scholar on TV. Huh? Say that again? Oh, yes, I went to school for medicine. I'm a cardiologist, but part-time I play legal scholar. And here's the rules. From where did you take that? What are you doing? I run the masjid. I'm on the board. I'm a doctor. I know you're a doctor in medicine. What that has to do with legal principles of the religion? You in charge? Really? May Allah help us. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. No studies, just your legal, your medical studies. And then on the side, you're reading books on your own, and now you giving legal verdicts. Really? Okay. And you're making authoritative legal verdicts at that contradict the experts in the field of Islamic legal studies. You contradict all of them, and you are giving the judgment. And we supposed to accept that. Let us try that in your field and see how much you object. Go ahead.
Answers may be forthcoming, but they will not be the same as those one could get from a qualified contractor. To urge that a mujtahid is not divinely protected from error, ma'soom, is as of little relevance to his work as the fact that a major physicist is not divinely protected from simple errors in calculus. The probability of finding them in his published work is virtually negligible. Regarding other long-dead schools, such as the Dahiriyya, the difference between their work and that of the four living schools is firstly one of quality, as their positions and evidence have not been re-examined and upgraded by succeeding generations of first-rank scholars like those of the four schools, as discussed at W12. And secondly, the lack of verification of the actual positions of their mujtahids through reliable chains of transmitters, as described below at B7.6.
Okay, so if we're talking about outside of the four schools context, one of the main reasons why outside of the four schools have not been accepted is because the legal positions cannot be traced to the ones who supposedly made them with verifiable, reliable links of narrators from us to them. So in other words, from whom did you take this stuff? And how do we verify that at each level there was not textual perversion? So that's why we ask, from who did you learn? Who are your teachers? Okay, you could make a mistake. That's possible. Okay, from where did you get it? Who are your teachers? And who are their teachers? And who were their teachers? And who were their teachers? In an Islamic scholarly verifiable way to ensure there's not textual perversion. And that is through living scholars and reliable books. They match, they go hand in hand when we're talking about the 4 schools. In every school, that is verifiable. Outside of the 4 schools, that's not verifiable. And that's why we don't accept them. So when you got this, now listen, I want everyone to put this up. Not following a madhab is a madhab. Not following a madhab, a school of thought, a legal school, is a school of thought, but an illegal school of thought. Can we put that up there? Not following a madhab is a madhab. However, not following a legally valid school of thought, madhab, is following illegal madhab. Do y'all follow that? So when someone tells you, I don't follow a madhab, they're not telling the truth. You are following a madhab, but it's an illegal madhab, an unqualified madhab. And you might be the imam of that madhab. Oh my goodness. Please. I'm sorry, I'm a little silly today. Right? Do y'all follow that? Because when it's clear, it's really laughable. It's not funny because it's a real problem, especially in our communities. From that side, it's not funny, not at all. It's very serious. But from how absurd it is, it's funny, right? Like, you can't be serious. Once you understand, like, you ever been played and you're mad that you got played, but when you discover, you be like, you actually got that off for me? You laugh like, dag, I was lunching. You played me. It's no way you shouldn't have caught that, but you sleeping. As they say in the hip hop game, they caught you lacking. Right? They caught you lacking, and they got one off on you. They caught you lacking. So you laugh at that. You like, you got me lacking. You caught me, right? Even though it's not funny, right? So when I'm laughing like they caught us lacking. And they just ran the bozo clown joint on us, banana in the tailpipe, and got us, right? So that person who's saying, I don't follow a madhab, has a madhab. And they're actually have some kind of methodology. Now, whose madhab it is, sometimes they're the imam of the madhab. Sometimes their teacher is the imam of the madhab. Sometimes their physician is the imam of their madhab. Do you understand my point? Right? Even with me, if I'm giving legal judgments, I'm going to tell you where I got them from. I didn't make them up. I didn't make them up. So if you ask me from where did you get that legal judgment, I'm going to tell you, I learned it through this one, from this book, from this sheikh, from this scholar. These are where I learned these things from. And you could go ask them because I have real teachers. It's not like I didn't make it up. I have real living teachers who are respected scholars. This is what they said. This is what they conveyed to us. These are the books that they're mentioned in, right? I'm not making it up. Everything I just told you, I could tell you the living scholars who said that. And the books that mention it in a way that you would understand it. They might not use the terminologies and the analogies that I use because I'm talking in context. But the point is clearly mentioned in our books of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. It's not something that's strange. Anyone who's a student of knowledge, a beginning seeker, will follow that, right? They will find it easily. You don't have to listen to Imam Amin. Once you know what it is, you go to him. Everyone will tell you the same stuff. Anyone who learned. Do you follow what I mean? Uh, so let me give an example. All right. Now, you the new star student because you get private classes. So we got to put you on Front Street in a good way. Answer your own question. You just heard the lesson. I want you to answer that question from the lesson, not from your mind. From the lesson you just listened to, answer that question. Let's see if you understood. You in class now. Private lessons, you got to do the work now. That's your pay. Your pay for the private lessons is that you answer the questions. So answer the question quickly. And we got to show everybody that we made up and we homies now. We were always homies, but it may not look like that. So now we're going to work together and show people we homies. I love our youngsters. I'm telling you, we got to connect to our youth. They're very important. They're essential. Okay. Come on, you got to answer the question, man. It's easy. You took the lesson. You should answer this with ease. All right, let me help him because I know he don't like being on Front Street, but I like messing with him, you know. Keep in mind, it's all love. I like to have fun, but I like to learn while I'm having fun too. So, that's just my way, right? Get used to it. We Black, right? We ain't like we're not stiff people. We like having fun. We roast people, you know. You ever sort of roast, like in the comedian thing, they have a roast. They have they have one person and they get a bunch of comedians and they roast them. We come from that culture. It ain't meant to embarrass nobody, it ain't meant to hurt nobody. We just have fun. That's us as a people. And we shouldn't lose our fun stuff. It's our natures, right? It helps us. Okay. Is the authority school unique in this? No, there's no such thing as an authority school of fiqh. It doesn't exist. Why? There are no, right? There are no verifiable chains of narration to substantiate legal positions and rulings that encompass the whole of the sacred law called authority. It doesn't exist. Do you understand that? Unlike the four schools of thought, right? Where you have that at every level, back to the imam of the school and qualified, reliable, qualified scholars with reliable books, reliable, trustworthy books to support those claims back and those rulings back to the imams and everyone who participated within the development of that school of legal thought. There's no such thing as called an authority school of legal reasoning. It doesn't exist. The closest thing to that was the Zahiri school that Ahl Sunnah have rejected because of its dinosaur nature of legal methodology. Dinosaur methodology is my wording, meaning it no longer exists. And that's why it is not conveyed to us today with an unbroken chain of narrator and living scholars. It doesn't exist. So those who tried to revive that madhab, which are those authority people, have revived something that cannot be verified. Hence, it becomes a whole nother school without legal methodologies that have been substantiated. Are y'all with me? Now, that's why, so now let me add to that. You have people who are so-called Athari in Aqidah, but Hanbali in fiqh, because there's no such thing as an Athari madhab in fiqh. Athari in Aqidah is a fancy word, right, that the Wahhabiyya have used to prolong their demise of their vow creed. That was a way to slide into Ahl Sunnah and put those crazy ideas out there. It was a cover in our time to maintain bad ideas in creed. So now you have this concept of a vague methodology that is not agreed upon by those who claim it, opposed to the Ash'ari and Maturidi sound, tested, and proven methodologies. It's two different things. Now we're talking technically. And you may have a theory that in your mind may be all what you want it to be. But in practicality, what it has become is something totally different. And that hasn't happened with the Ash'ari and Maturidi schools. So when someone says, I'm Athari, my question, first thing is, will the real Athari stand up? Will the real Athari stand up and speak out? Will the real Athari stand up and speak out? And the first thing you need to speak out about is cleaning up your methodology from those who are falsely assembling themselves under it. Do y'all follow what I mean? That's it. Then we don't have an argument. Then once you define what is the real Athari school, then we can have a conversation. But so long as you have al-mushabbiha, those who liken Allah to his creation, al-mujassima, those who give Allah bodily attributes, under the cover of al-athariya, then you have a problem. Until you fix that problem, we're not even going to pay attention to your claims. It's outside of the context. We're not even going to listen. Why? You got all this stuff going on. Why are we listening to that? When we have a sound, well-tested methodology from generation to generation back to the Imams with living scholars, trustworthy books, why are we going to go for some vague methodology? And as a people, we definitely can't afford that. Y'all follow me? Did I answer that well enough? Is my answer clear, unambiguous? Is it clear and unambiguous? I didn't stutter, did I? Okay, in closing, thank the reader. A little ambiguous. All right, call me and clear it up. You get private classes. Whatever is ambiguous, you have open line to me to clear that ambiguous thing, to make it unambiguous. You have open line. You are first, like priority. You know how you go to Sam's and you can come in 7 o'clock, soon as the door is open, you don't have to wait. You can come in soon as the door is open. Soon as I open my eyes, the phone could ring Nail and you got it. You are a gold star customer with me. Oh my goodness. I love you, man. I swear, I see you and I say to myself, subhanallah, I wish I would have had when I was your age, the access that you have now. I had my own access, but not what you have at your disposal. Not as easy facilitated. I had to spend thousands and tens of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to get what you're getting right now for free. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to get what you get for free. So don't waste it. Honestly, don't waste it. You have a big blessing. Don't waste it. You have access. We didn't have that. We had to pay for it. We had to travel for it. We had to suffer for it. We had to get bed bugs and tick bites and scorpion bites and go hungry and there's so much stuff, right? To learn what you got just sitting in the comfort of your home. Don't waste it. Please. Don't waste it. Really, I'm being honest. Don't waste it. No internet. We didn't even have books when I was studying. We had to write. They didn't have enough books for us. No books. You go there and you got to write. No book. Can't just order online and play around. No, you got to write, because guess what? When you go see that teacher, you might not get another shot. I only have this amount of time and that's it. And you can take this amount of knowledge and that's it. And you got to travel from one country to another to sit with that teacher. And that's all the time you got. You better make use of it. If you understand what I'm saying, seriously. We ain't even have MySpace, bro. You wasn't even born or even thought of when I started studying. I'm telling you, it was a total different world then. You wasn't born nor thought of, right? When I started. It was total different world. So take advantage. Take advantage. Take advantage, seriously. Even if it's rough, right? Even if sometimes I could be a little edgy. I'm giving you young enough to understand that I'm giving you, no pun intended, $1 million worth of game. You got that hook, right? I'm giving you free $1 million worth of game. Nayo, did you catch that? The young people would have caught this. I'm giving you $1 million worth of game, free. That's what I'm giving you is the real $1 million worth of game, not that crap you watching on YouTube. Do you follow my point? And we must, when you learn, there's a condition. You must be just as voluntarily giving away as you received. See, you on it, boy. You on it. You on it, right? But for us, we're about saving our people. And wherever we have mistakes, the generation we produce are going to fix it, right? Wherever we have mistakes, the generation that we're going to produce from it are going to fix our mistakes. Inshallah. We're not infallible. We're going to have mistakes. We're going to have errors. But we're going to raise the bar to the next generation are going to come fix those mistakes. Because we're going to raise the bar of Islamic education where they're going to say, oh, this was a mistake because of this. And it's going to be at another level. Y'all follow? So just don't make big mistakes that lead us to disbelief. Other mistakes we're going to make. I mean, because we're still at the beginning stages of this process. It's not going to happen overnight. And as I told a few brothers yesterday, we're probably not going to live to see the full result of it. We're going to die doing it. So please realize this is a work to death, and it's a race for us to fix it, right? It's sacrifice, right? So we have to work. It's not something we can just, right? We got to realize we not it. We got to drop our egos. We not it. So we must learn what it looks like and help produce it for us, right? We must realize that we are not it, but we have to learn what it looks like and then work hard to produce it. Can we put that up? And I want to close with that. We must realize that we are not it, but we must learn what it looks like and work hard to produce it. Did anyone catch all that? I'll repeat it again. We must realize that we are not it, but we must learn what it looks like and then work hard to produce it. Can somebody put that up real quick? Let's all copy and paste that, and let's leave it on that note. Can we put it up? I know it was a lot, but it's very important for us to get that in our mind so we don't delude ourselves, nor prevent future. But there's some lines in between that, Khadijah. So we must realize that we are not it, but we must learn what is it and then work hard to produce it. That's important, seriously. There you go, right there. We are not it, but we must learn what it looks like and work hard to produce it. There you go, right there. Can everyone copy that? That's beautiful. And I like how she capitalized it. We're not it. We got a lot to learn. And put it in context. We're talking about where we need to go. We're talking about scholarship. We're talking about levels of ijtihad, which we still got to talk about tomorrow, right? We're going to talk about what is it. Be patient, grasshopper, right? Right? We're going to talk about it. This is step by step. Bit tadarruj. We're going to step by step. Be patient, right? We're not it. We've already identified that. Is any of us walking around thinking we mujtahids, or even at the lowest level? Is there someone in here that claims that? Is any of us claiming even the lowest levels of ijtihad? Are any one of us claiming that in here? Please raise your hand if you're that one, so we can fix your delusions, right? Right? At the lowest level, is any one of us claiming that? Anyone, I don't care who you are. Because if you is, I'm gonna roast you. If you claiming that, even the lowest level, and you watching me, I'm gonna roast you. Because you need to be working and helping us and not entertaining yourself watching me. You need to be in my place, and I should be sitting down listening to you, not you listening to me. Because if you sitting there listening to me and you actually got those qualifications and you not in us on the ground helping us, I have a problem with you and you ain't it. No, seriously. If you're doing that and you are qualified and you see our conditions and you quiet as a church mouse, I got a problem with you personally. And that's personal. That would be personal. You know, Mandela, there was that one of them, they said that those who betray the nation should be taken to the highest pole in the city square and hung. Those who oppose the nation should be taken in the city square with the highest pole and hung. The one who has the qualifications and sees our condition and knows our condition and remains silent and lets us continue to struggle needs to be taken to the center city in the highest pole in front of everybody and made an example of. That's my radical stuff, right? No violence called for, but it's an analogy, right? So we don't go to jail for inciting violence, right? Facebook jail, I mean. It's an analogy just to show how horrible someone could do that. So we not it, but we must learn what it looks like, and that's what we're learning. And then once we know, now we're going to work hard to produce it. We're going to stop walking around talking about I'm following Quran and Sunnah, making our own religious judgments. We're going to actually sit down and learn and stop challenging the teacher when we know we don't know, right? We're going to actually sit down and say, guess what? I've never learned this, and let me learn it first thoroughly, and then let me see what I don't understand and ask questions on that. But first, let me learn. I've never learned. And that's fine. You never had access. But when we have some, we got to go learn first, right? So that's learning what it looks like. And then once we learn, we're going to work hard and we're going to produce it. One day, we're going to actually have people who are really qualified to do ijtihad in our communities because we're going to work at it. We're going to sacrifice. We're going to save our money. We're going to invest in our institutions. We're going to raise our children instead of sending them just to play football and basketball and soccer and all that nonsense. We're going to actually dedicate some of them to be religious scholars. And we're going to support them. And we're going to find them the best of teachers. And then we're going to provide institutions when they come back so that they can do that and serve the community and not have to go work for Mr. Charlie and waste all the time that they went and studied. Because we're going to learn our part too. Even though we're not it, we have a role in producing it. Even though we're not it, we have an important, integral role in producing it. So we got to do our part. We can't just say, go learn and we're not going to help you. No, go learn and we're going to help establish you and make you firm. Hence, when we ask for donations so that we can do our part in helping the process. Do you know if I had to go to work every morning, I couldn't do this? Do you realize that? If I had to go to Mr. Charlie's every morning, I could not do what I'm doing. If I wasn't supported to do this work, I couldn't do it. I would have to go. I have wife and kids. I have to go to work. I have to provide for my family. If someone didn't support what I'm doing, I'd be shot. I couldn't do it. And you would lose out. Every morning for years, you've been able to benefit. How do you think that's happening? Oh, that's right. He's a millionaire. No, I'm not. I'm poor. But someone understands, and some people, and some of you understand how important the work we're doing is, and you support the work. You support it. And hence, it frees me to do the work. Right? It frees me to do the work. Other than that, I couldn't do it. So we need that on a higher level, on a much higher level. But there's also going to be some of us got to sacrifice our children. As scary as that may sound, we have to do it. We have to give our children and dedicate them, right, to this work. I had a baby, I had a son, I had a daughter. They're dedicated for Islamic scholarship. And in our mind, they got to reach the levels of ijtihad. And I'm in it for the long haul. And that will take 20, sometimes even 30 years of hard work. So they have to be free to do that. This ain't light work. This is serious business. Just like you spend 20 years to become a specialist as a doctor in one aspect of medical field, you're talking about the sacred law. We got to put in that time. It's much more work. Everybody can't do it. They don't even have the capacity. So we have to identify in our community those who have that capacity, right? And then we have to provide the route for that. This is serious work in the Black community. It's serious. It's serious business. It's not a joke. And the problem for us, too many of us don't even realize what we have to do. We don't even realize what it entails because no one taught us. No one told us. They lowered the bar so low that it ain't no bar. They've lowered the bar so low that it ain't no bar. Anybody's a scholar. Anybody's learning. Anyone can deduce from the Quran and Sunnah. And that's a disaster. So may Allah reward you all. And inshallah, tonight we have some reading in the works of Imam Haddad at 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's seriously. And you know, I get in trouble for this. I say, man, we can't continue this disservice. It's a disservice. It's wrong. It's a crime. It's a crime. And we live in with this crime. Like it's cool. Like we live in our neighborhoods, unfortunately, with people selling drugs and killing people. And we talking about, I ain't gonna snitch. And people, our neighborhoods are being ruined. And then when they ruin our neighborhoods, they come and move us out and then get us out the way and then rebuild those neighborhoods, raise the prices, and those homes that we struggled to keep, they turn into $1 million homes that doesn't include us. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Serious business. And, you know, we got to change the narrative. And it's work, and it hurts. It's tiresome. It's a struggle, you know? It's a struggle. No one said it wasn't. No one said it's going to be easy. But we have to do it. Some of us have to sacrifice and give our lives for it. We got to love ourselves enough to do it. Barakallahu bikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we'll see you tonight at 6 o'clock for the Imam Haddad books. Barakallahu bikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.